Hi, good evening. I'm Sandeep, and you are watching Weekender at 5. Today is 1st December, and in today's major headlines, 146 new cases were reported in the community as the country prepares to enter into traffic light system in less than 48 hours. Speaking at 1 p.m. COVID press briefing, COVID-19 response minister Chris Hipkins also told that children aged between 5 to 11 may be able to receive a vaccine dose from the end of the year pending official approval. In another important and exclusive news, the Indian Weekenders advocacy has resulted in businesses acquired in lockdown to get eligibility to receive government's resurgent payment. Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robertson's announcement yesterday of the new one-off financial support for businesses to move into the traffic light system has a welcome relief, including the previously left out category of pre-existing businesses that were sold during the lockdown after the Indian Weekenders' persistent reporting and advocacy. The Indian Weekender was probably the only media house to have first identified the issue of the businesses acquired during lockdown, missing out on government's resurgent support, and had raised the issue with the government. The government had then assured the Indian Weekender that it was reviewing, will be soon coming out with a solution. So Monday's announcement by Finance Minister Grant Robertson included this small category of businesses eligible for resurgent support payment. So you can read more on this on Indian Weekender's website. In the major news today, and which is affecting a large chunk of Kiwi Indian community, Immigration New Zealand's website crashed from early morning when more than 15,000 eligible people jumped online to file for the new one-off residence visa. Expectedly, the news had attracted much attention throughout the day, with several anxious temporary migrants spending hours before the computer to file for the much-awaited one-off resident visas. The situation has attracted a lot of flack from the community, immigration advisors, immigration lawyers, and political opposition leaders as well. So to discuss more on this, we have got Himang Bharadwaj from Council 1 Immigration Services New Zealand joining us. So welcome to our digital studio. Himang, how are you today?
Hi, Sandeep. I'm really good. Thank you for having me here again. Lovely to be here.
Right. So today must have been very busy and anxious day. Like today was a day, 1st of December, when I think 15,000 odd temporary migrants were eligible to file for that one-off resident visa. And from
That
what
is
we
correct.
have been reporting continuously, that website has remained crashed for probably for the day. So what was your experience with your clients and customers?
I think a lot of our clients and stuff did experience the same issues that, as you can imagine, everyone else faced. The website, the application forms were supposed to go live at 6 a.m., but Immigration New Zealand actually opened them up at 3 a.m. And a lot of the applicants were actually applying for the visas from that point onwards. Now, to be honest, I actually expected the system to crash, mainly because Immigration New Zealand's using their iGIMS system, or I believe it's called International Global Management, Immigration Global Management System, for the first time for an application that is going to attract so many applicants at the same time. As you can imagine, a lot of our migrant community, or a lot of visa applicants, temporary visa holders, have been waiting for quite some time to get their resident visas. So they wanted to make sure that they were first in line. And because of them, thousands of them jumped onto the platform. And as you can imagine, just like with any website, it can only handle so much foot traffic and user logins, and the system crashed. And this has been kind of ongoing. I believe some people are still having login issues right now as well. So I've actually been contacted by a couple of people in the last hour who said that, can you help us out with this application, because we have been trying to do this application since morning and we've not been able to do that. And at the same time, a lot of applicants were able to submit the applications.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's quite a mixed bag.
Well, that's very kind and generous description. I would say for site. I'm not sure if that generous comment comes from your own background. That we all know that you have been a immigration training specialist in Immigration New Zealand.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
is that the reason that you have been so kind and generous to Immigration New Zealand in describing? Because from what we have been hearing throughout the day, there has been a lot of frustration and anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, look, in regards to the frustration and anxiety, no one can deny that. A lot of people, like, anytime if you're trying to submit an application and you keep facing login issues or the message keeps coming up, something went wrong, anyone who's trying to do an application will be frustrated. It's just, as someone who has worked for the organization, and I was actually working with them when the iGym system was introduced in 2015.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
can
can you repeat that word? Actually, I'm really very impressed with that word. Actually, what
uh,
exactly it means? Like,
iGEMS, so IGMS. So back in before 2015, Immigration New Zealand mainly had paper-based applications, and in 2015 they introduced this new platform. They spent, I think, around $100 million at that point of time to create that platform, through which, so when clients log in today and they log in through the Real Me to apply for the visa, that platform from an immigration perspective, or let's say what INZ calls it, is called iGEMS. That's where you can view the documents and you can submit the applications as well.
right. Okay. Well, that's a quite a good insider scoop, I would say that. And thanks for sharing with us.
No
And,
worries.
and that gives us more pleasure to come back and talk to you because you reveal a lot of insider details over there. So now coming back to that website, does will it be more friendly to our temporary migrants who have been stuck over here, or maybe any other insider scoop that you can give it to us today?
I guess the main thing, from an immigration perspective really is that, the previous, I think there's a lot of mistrust in the migrant community with Immigration New Zealand right now, and rightly so. That's mainly because of the delays that they were with the skilled migrant category and the residents from work queue. But as someone who was working at INZ at that point in time, I can tell you this, that it was more, and this is something that the immigration minister actually confirmed in one of their statements as well. The delays were more due to political reasons and not necessarily because of resourcing reasons or and things. Those were, of course, factors that can impact the processing of the application. But the fact that it took that long was had nothing to do with INZ's capability to process applications. I
Sure. No,
believe in.
that is, yes. No, that is very. I think that you have raised a very good point, and probably I think our migrant community is quite divided on that issue. There are people actually who believes that. Who straightforwardly believe that this is all about political inclination of the government, and from what we have been hearing from this government for the last 4 or 5 years, that yeah, probably they had their own plans to restrict the arrival of number of temporary migrants coming into this country. We have been hearing those stories, right? So there is a set of, I would say, a section of our community who very clearly understand that this is all about political direction of the government. But there is a vast majority of community as well who probably don't comprehend that part or don't indulge too much into that. And what they want to think is all capabilities. Does
Hmm.
immigration haven't got enough resource capabilities? Can't they hire 100 odd more people to process the things? Because why I'm raising that issue, because when we were seeing this long queue of our skilled migrant category visa, we know that probably 38,000 or maybe more numbers. They were in the queue. They have been waiting for more than 2 odd years.
Yep.
So a lot of people, they used to understand that in terms of resource constraint. So thanks for clearing that out. So do you want to a little bit more about that, like how is
So
immigration New Zealand? Yeah, how it.
So, see, I mean, again, there's we need to understand that Immigration New Zealand is a gigantic organization, and it fits within MBI, which is the Ministry of Business Innovation and Employment, of course. So, there's if I was to claim that I can explain the reasons why the applications were declined were delayed in this video, I don't think that I would be able to do that. But there were a lot of other factors as well. So, as an example, with the immigration officer role, now it's quite a high pressure role, and so the retention in the immigration officer role is quite low as well. So, I think there was a survey, or basically a thing that was compiled by immigration, and I believe it's 2018 or 2019, when they clarified that the retention in an immigration officer role is only 8 months. So, like, if you can think about it, when we train, and as someone who has trained people in immigration, when you start training people up, it's really only after around 12 months of working there that you really start understanding how the system works and you start being an efficient immigration officer. Before, up until then, you're really still learning, because just the subject matter is so vast, regardless of whatever type of applications you're processing. It takes quite a lot of time. So that didn't help with that either. Low unemployment rates in New Zealand also meant that the quality of staff that were coming through in immigration was not as great or amazing as the previous years. As an example, I was involved
So
in the.
is it fair to say that that adds to the issue of trust that you
Yes.
have pointed about, the trust within the
Yes.
immigration system?
Yes, of course. I think at the end of the day, that all these factors, when from an applicant's perspective, all they at the end of the day care about is when I'm submitting my visa application, I should get an approval without getting any unnecessary questions or anything. But from an immigration standpoint, to be able to deliver that for hundreds and thousands of people, it's a big process in itself as well. So it's not something that can be
Sure.
I guess covered off in a few words or anything.
Fair
But
enough.
there
Fair
were a
enough.
lot of there have been a lot of factors as
Surely,
well.
I understand. Let's move on to talk a little bit more about this erosion of trust within immigration system. Because
So
from what we have been hearing today, like there was a lot of anxiety within our fellow temporary migrant community, actually, who have been holding their breath to put the application in today, in a hope or in a belief that probably they don't want to miss the bus, right?
yep.
And so there's a kind of a perception out there that immigration New Zealand has probably months before they announced that today is the D-Day, and they knew that probably around 15,000 people would be eligible. So they had months before today to prepare themselves, and they would have anticipated the surge.
Hmm.
So don't you think that immigration New Zealand has, I would say, disappointed themselves for not rising to the occasion and preparing a system that can actually handle the surge?
Again, I think that's probably more of a question for someone who's an IT professional. But based on my understanding, there's only so much that an organization can do to ensure that their website is capable of maintaining a particular amount of foot traffic and a particular amount of applications trying to log in. The other thing we need to remember is that there was that one particular application form that these applicants were filling out. So when there are so many people logging into the issue on the same page, delays are bound to happen. And again, this was only 20% or less, around 20% of applications that are going to go through in one off. Like imagine
I
that the same
understand.
thing in March, when
See,
today we had around 15,000 applicants. In March, we've
yeah,
got more
sure.
than 80,000 applicants there. So it's going to be even worse. And I don't think
Definitely.
there's
I
much
can
INZ
sense
can do.
I can sense that that immigration officer, training officer, that DNA that inside you, and you're choosing to remain very, I would say, kind and generous, which I really appreciate. That's very good. But now, since you have raised that issue that coming back on 1st of April, we are looking for
Yep.
85,000 odd people. How confident are you that that system will be able to cope that kind of search?
I think again it'll just crash down. So some people will be able to submit the application, some won't be, and then as the days go by, and then the foot traffic lowers down, and then as applicants basically start spreading their applications across the few days, then the system will be able to accept it as well. And I think the other thing we need to remember, again, I'm not trying to side with immigration or anything here, but the other thing for us to remember is INZ deals with a lot of sensitive information. So for them, security of data is as important as anything else as well. Like the last thing you want is Immigration New Zealand website being hacked and stuff. And those things, of
Sure,
course,
sure.
cause add to the
Well,
delay
yeah,
or
sure.
in the
I
issues.
completely agree with that, and I can relay you one thing with confidence that probably all the temporary migrants and the migrant community of Kiwi Indian community, they are also equally emotionally invested
Yes.
in the robustness of immigration. Nobody wants the system to be, less robust.
Yeah.
Now, I
Exactly.
completely agree with that.
Exactly.
The only question comes arise is that, what's the level of preparation, and is immigration New Zealand anticipating the right demand and putting the right resources? But I think, yeah, you have answered it quite nicely. But
Yep.
now coming back to another important thing, which matters to our target audiences,
Mhm.
our community, members of community, that how hard it was for you. Like, was it hard for you at all in going back and telling to your clients that, look, this is struggling, this is not happening today, let's postpone it for
No,
a couple of
I
days.
told him.
Like,
I told him when I signed up. When I signed them up, I told them I was like, "Don't expect your application to go through on first day. We'll try our best to launch the application as quickly as we can, but expect delays. Expect the application system is going to crash down, and there's nothing, including Immigration New Zealand. There's no one who can do anything about it. It's just how it's supposed to be. But I think the other key point, of course, in this entire equation is yes, the system crashed, and yes, that's something that is going to have an impact on our migrants. The other thing they also need to remember is that's just starting off the process. Then you've got the entire application going through the system and being approved and things like that, and as well. And I think Immigration New Zealand is going to try their best to issue visas as quickly as they can. Apparently, some people have been issued visas today itself as well, who have submitted the applications early
well,
in the morning.
yeah, that's going to be my next question. Actually, you have preempted that. The thing is that I really want to harness most from inside linkages, inside knowledge from Immigration New Zealand.
Sure.
So we have heard the stories that yeah, some people they have some or maybe one they have got their visa approved, which is I would say I don't have the right word. Exciting. I don't know. Like, was it feasible? Is it feasible for Immigration New Zealand to issue resident visa in one day? We'll
Yep.
come back and talk more about that a bit later. But
Hmm.
I really want a little bit of insider scoop from you, based on your phone connection. Like, do you have got the numbers? Like, how many numbers are being approved as of today?
No, I don't think anyone would be releasing any information from Immigration New Zealand. But based on what I had, I think they did say that they've. I had one of the approvals. I was still in the same office that's processing the application. So I did hear that they had at that point in time approved. I think six or eight, around eight resident visa applications.
Wow. That's a
And
quite live reporting. Thank you very much. Eight is an exciting number. Like, we have got a good number to go back and
uh,
tell to our audiences that Mang has scoop that eight people they have got their residency approved today.
I mean, again, it's more an approval in principle, so the resident visas have not been issued yet for them, of course. I'm presuming because they still have to pay the fees towards the end.
Sure.
And the with this thing, I think the other thing for us to like in regards to the processing of the applications as well, you were saying the whole how it can be done in one day. So technically, if we look at one of the most complex instructions that Immigration New Zealand has ever has is the skilled migrant category, the point-based system. Now, with that one, an immigration officer, as long as they have all the information ready in front of them and they don't need any other documents to assess it, the assessment itself is not going to take them longer than 2 to 3 hours. And that's also we're looking at with a more complex application. So something as streamlined as a one-off resident visa application, I won't be surprised if competent immigration officers could be churning out decisions in around 10 minutes, as long as you've provided everything. They don't need any other information and things like that. So they would be, a lot of them would be having a lot of quick turnaround.
No, no, that has been largely talked about out in the community and the visa hopefuls many times. You know that how long it takes for a case officer to actually to take a decision. And thanks for telling us that sometime it could be just a matter of few hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So is it fair to say that the decisions when the immigration officers when they are delaying their decisions more because of political direction of reducing the numbers?
Again,
Would you
that's
like to comment on that?
see, that's where I guess at the end of the day, again, a few factors come in. So the political factors impacted the New Zealand residence program, which decides how many resident visa applications can be issued by Immigration New Zealand in any given year. With the
So
assessment
which
of an app,
was previously, as per the last, was around 90,000 in 2 years, which makes it roughly around
yeah, yeah,
45,000 in a year, right?
yeah, yeah,
Do you
that
mean to
was
say
only
that
up
once
in
that now?
December 2019.
Yes, correct. So I don't think they have come back with a new number after that,
No,
isn't it?
no,
They haven't.
they've
So
announced the one-off
again,
resident visa as
since
well.
I'm intrigued by your insider's knowledge, so probably this is the opportunity today. So just to ask you,
Sure.
like, so in that kind of environment, once Immigration New Zealand had hit a deadline, say a number of a target of 45,000 met for
Mhm.
that one particular year. So does Immigration New Zealand case officer they deliberately delay the processing of other visa applications, residence applications, or they sit tight on that,
No,
or
then they don't allocate the applications. They allocate the applications accordingly. So, as an example, with parent category resident visa applications that were being processed by immigration in the past, what they would do with those applications was, and the number there was quite limited. I think it was 1,250 or something. So once the quota for the year was met, they had assessed the application. They will inform the client that look, your resident visa has been assessed, but we'll come back to this next year when we have the capacity to process it. With with NZRP programs, it's always more of an estimated number, because
Mhm.
just because they say 45,000, and if more people apply, they can't decline those visa applications. They can't do anything with that. And the main because of that, it's quite case to case, I guess, more or less. And the other factors that impact assessment are also the information that the client has provided. Are there any concerns or risks that they see in an application being approved? Is the applications that was submitted, was a decision ready or not? So it's things like these that usually cause issues or can have uh, that cause the delays with the application
Sure,
with
sure.
it.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Himang. Really appreciate you sharing your time today, and I think we
No
had a good
worries.
discussion. We had a good discussion. But before I let you go, I really liked a word that you said, estimate. So estimate the numbers. So
Yep.
so today you have already revealed us that today Immigration New Zealand has approved around eight applications.
One of the offices. I don't think I
I
probably
understand.
probably don't think you
It's
should
not
quote
official
me on this.
information.
Yep.
Completely understand. I will not put on you. What we are keen today is to get the insider information, and I'm really very glad that you can come to us with a number that we can tell to our viewers.
Sure.
And maybe, yeah, maybe we can have a chat every 5 minutes every day around 5 o'clock just to see that what's your latest tally. So, what's your
Uh,
estimate that how many files we can expect by tomorrow?
I think let's not look at numbers. I think actually, since you did bring this up, the one thing I'll say before I go is, see what happens is with when it was delayed, they were only allocating applications per date. But now that applications, a big chunk of them would be submitted quite quickly, you would have, let's say, friends or flatmates that are living in the same house. One of them could get an approval in, let's say, a day or a week, and then you could have another flatmate who'd submitted the application exactly at the same time, exactly, similar situation or the same criteria, and they do meet the requirements. That application could end up probably taking 3 or 6 months. Because let's be realistic, if
So, what is
you're
the point of difference? Why that will happen?
it just comes down to where the application ends up.
Okay.
So an application can get picked up quicker and could go into, because see, there'll be one main queue, and then they'll be looking at spreading the applications in three different offices.
Right.
Within each, so each office
And
will
what are
have
those
their own
offices?
queue.
They all are New Zealand-based offices.
Yes, so it's Manukau, Hamilton, and Henderson office. So two in Auckland, one in Hamilton,
Right.
and so
Okay.
it goes to those three offices, and then each office will have their own separate queue, and then the sub queue that goes to different team members. So I think Manukau office has around 7 teams of immigration managers and officers, with around 10 to 12 immigration officers in each team that processes the application. Manukau, Henderson, and Hamilton, I think, may have a little less teams. So that's the one main queue, then the branch queue, and then the team queue, and then the workload of the immigration officer. So let's say one
Right.
application.
Okay. No, no, that's quite elaborate information, I would say, and probably yeah, that's too much for my viewers to take it and digest. And then yeah, maybe I will start getting some questions for today, and we'll come back in a few days and ask.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
That's
No
really good.
worries.
And thanks for telling us the team size of each officers. No, that's very good inside information. It's good to know. Good to
No
know, kind
worries,
of
sir.
thing. And
No
the other
worries.
point is, I think, yeah, I would like to conclude on that. That probably the way you have explained this is quite encouraging. That people they can expect that okay, if lucky, they can get their residence visa approved even in a day.
Yep.
What it tells is that probably because that was probably one big anxiety that people had after this category was announced,
Hmm.
that was that how quick processing time would be taken, because probably there are applicants in this queue who had already been into skilled migrant category visa for 2 odd years,
Hmm.
and what they were hoping or what they were fearing was that probably are they going into a new queue where they could be in a queue for 12 months or even more. Quite encouraging news that Immigration New Zealand is committed to
Yeah, I,
basically
I personally do expect that most of the applications, majority of the applications, will be completed with less than 12 months.
less than 12.
So yeah,
Okay.
again, it comes down to case by case. If you've got character issues or health issues, or there are issues around verification of documentation or authenticity of documents, it could potentially take longer. But for people who are meeting the requirements and they've got no issues, should definitely get, I would say, their resident visas approved with under 12 months.
Perfect. That's really great. I think that's an encouraging point to stop our conversation. We
Sure.
started with a lot of anxiety and fear, but I think we are ending up with a lot of hope. So, on that
Yes.
note, thank you very much, Hemang. We really appreciate you sharing
Sure.
this insider information and sharing your time as well.
No worries, Sandeep.
We will come back and speak to you again in near future. Thank you very
Sure.
much.
No worries. Thanks for
So,
having
this
me
is
again.
Sandeep. Thanks for watching Weekender at 5.